So here at the start of the back bend preparation, you can see that Keira's shoulders are so flexible, she's not really going into the upper back, which is what you want. So to fix this, you're going to push your chest forward and down and keep your shoulders in place. That emphasizes thoracic extension. Next, Keira is demonstrating thoracic rotation drills. What she's doing is she has her elbow bent behind her, rolling her chest up and rotating. This is as opposed to leading with your arms straight. Some people have shoulder flexibility issues, so that if you lead with your arms straight, your shoulders are going to restrict you, versus rotating at the spine, which is what you want. So if you have problems, go ahead and keep that elbow bent. From this angle, you can see that you want your elbow and your shoulder to be in line, and your hips and your knees to be in line. That's the neutral position for thoracic rotation. Now you can change that by shifting your hips forward or shifting your hips backward, depending on what area of the back you want to work on. If you're sitting back on your heels, you're going to feel a little bit higher in the spine. If you're going forward, where you're shifting forward, you're going to feel a little bit lower in your low back. This variation has it with her elbow bent. You can do your arms straight if your shoulder flexibility allows for it. So go ahead and play with it and see what's best for you. Now with Keira, she's able to take her bottom arm and really rotate it forward, start in a more rotated position, and that way she can work into her spine more. This is because she is more flexible. So you'll have to play with that bottom arm. Where do you have it? Do you want it more rotated in the beginning, or do you want it a little bit more neutral? Remember, in all the stretches, give yourself some room to go. So don't go into that most stretched position before you even start. Give yourself some room to move with, and you'll be more comfortable and have some place to go with it. So next is this sort of camel variation. So it's where we start as a pre-backbend sequence, a warm-up to more vigorous backbending. She's starting in tall kneeling, pushing her hips forward as she leans back. She lifts her chest up and looks backwards. So the emphasis here is on pushing your pelvis forward. You do that and you're working on full spinal extension from that. Next is this kneeling lunge. You notice that she has her foot clearly far forward. It depends on your flexibility. You want to bring that back if it's too much, but if you bring your foot more forward, you have some room to bend forward and lunge forward. Again, you're going to have to work with what you have and what's more comfortable for you. Now you add a rotation to the same side as the leg is up. So if your left leg is up, you're going to rotate to the left. Also, for more stability, you want to make sure that your feet are a little bit wider apart, and that way you feel like you're comfortable within it. Now look, she can go straight into the splits from there because that's her level of flexibility. For a lot of people, just stay in the lunge. So going on with more of a full camel from yoga, she's up on her toes and doing the same thing that we did earlier, where you push your hips forward, but this time she's reaching back towards her heels. Shift your hips forward, lift the chest up. It's best to go in and out of the posture first to give yourself a bit of a warm-up. Look at that arch. It's a smooth, even curve. So the full camel pose has your insteps flat on the ground and your heels, hands on your heels. If you can't do that, keep your feet up. Also, you can reach back to a bolster. Work on what you can do for yourself. If you can, you're going to try and sit down in between your heels. So her heels are out the sides of her hip, so that gives her some room for her hips and her butt and her back to go in between the heels, leaning back as much as possible. You're also trying not to have the lower back arch too much, but you want to do a tilt, so you can try and flatten the lower back by drawing your stomach in, lifting your chest up. So for this, you have to have a certain amount of flexibility to do it without any props. So you can try leaning on against a couch, another stool, or actually a wall behind you, if that's where you're at. But look at Keira here. She's able to keep her upper back on the ground and lift her arms up for even more of a stretch. So make sure your heels are in line with your hips as you rise up. Grab the front of your ankles. And here, even though she's lifting up, we're lifting up, you do want to relax your glutes and use your quads to lift you up. So when you do that, when you relax your glutes and you use your quads, it'll make sure that you're pressing up into a good arch and you're not jamming your low back into extension. You'll also notice she's not actively pushing her knees outwards. A lot of the pressure should be from your quads lifting up and up, lifting your hips back and up behind you. The last variation has you clasping your hands behind you, rocking back onto the top of the back of your shoulders. So you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together, rock back and forth so you are more on your back of your shoulders, triceps. This gives you a little bit more upper back bend, a little bit more elevation. Again, relax your butt, push with your quads. Now we'll move on to Keira demonstrating how to do a proper back bend, a proper wheel or proper bridge pose in a way that distributes the forces through the spine evenly. And so you can work on it that it's not just focused on the low back, it's also going to go through the mid back and through the hips correctly. You see here, Keira's working on her upper back a little bit more. She's headed toward bringing more weight onto her arms. I'm going to have her drop down a little bit, bring the legs in closer and bend the arms and then straighten the legs. Then you can see how that shifts the arch over towards her mid back. So when we talk about an even curve, a better structural curve, what you're looking for is that your hips go up and out in one direction and your chest goes up and out in the opposite direction. So her chest is going to go up and towards the top corner of the wall that she's facing, and her hips are going to go up to the top corner of the wall that they're facing. Then you'll see a nice even curve, a nice structural arch. And here you can play with straightening your arms and your legs from there. But what you want to avoid is having a hinge or a crease more on the low back. And then when you see that in a person, you know that they're bending more on one part of their spine than the other. And really, for a healthy spine, for a bridge pose that actually works throughout your whole body, you want to see a nice even curve.